The country knows not yet, or in the least part, how great a son it has lost. On May 6, 1862, American Transcendentalist Henry David Thoreau had died of tuberculosis at a young age of 44. He was not appreciated for his work until later years after his death, and gained his fame posthumously.
Henry David Thoreau was born at what is now the Thoreau Farm Trust in Concord, Massachusetts on 12th of July, 1817, to Cynthia and John Thoreau. He was an American author, poet, philosopher, abolitionist, naturalist, tax resistor, historian, but most importantly, a transcendentalist. Transcendentalism was a philosophical, social, and theological movement during the 1830s in New England. It was a response to the new technology and the new industrialism. Thoreau was not the only transcendentalist at the time. In fact, he was an admirer of another famous transcendentalist named Ralph Waldo Emerson.
Henry David Thoreau believed in nature as a source of instruction as well as nourishment for the soul, rather than the social customs that the society held. In his book Walden, published in 1854, he mentioned that nature can show all good things are wild and free. Thoreau was not a believer of taxes as well. He thought that taxes were a way that the government cheated the well-meaning people of their money in order to pursue to their collaboration in injustice. Also mentioned in his famous essay written in 1849, Civil Disobedience, he believed that people with good intentions were again manipulated by the government to do the opposite. Examples mentioned in the essay included the Mexican-American War and slavery.
He pointed out that the people who applauded the soldiers for not going to war were the very same people who funded the entirety of it. Slavery, another conflicted philosophy during the mid-1800s, was also funded by the money of the people. The existence of this contradiction within the American society was that troubled him about paying taxes and was a key reason behind his ideas of tax resistance. This ideology was greatly inspired by his own experience, where he ran into a local tax collector in Walden Pond and was jailed for refusing to pay 6 years' worth of poll tax.
Go out upon that. Build yourself a hut, and there begin the grand process of devouring yourself alive. I see no other alternative, no other hope for you. It was later that Thoreau felt the need to get himself working more on his writing. So in the July of 1845, 2 months after he was advised by Ellery Channing to go experience Mother Nature, he moved to Walden Pond to start his experiment that would last 2 years, 2 months, and 2 days.
Many of Thoreau's future works, such as A Week on the Concord and Merrimack Rivers, Walden, and Civil Disobedience, would be worked upon in or inspired by his period in Walden Pond. He finished the first draft of A Week on the Concord and Merrimack Rivers, which was a tribute to his brother. Walden was an inspiration of events written into a book that occurred in that 2-year span in Walden Pond, while Civil Disobedience was a rewrite, a lecture, the rights and duties of the individual in relation to government, which expressed his doubts about taxation driven from his incident with the state tax collector.
Thoreau used these works to express his opinions in hopes of improving the American life. He did eventually impact American society, but had minimalistic influence on the society in his time period. He was viewed to be a naturalist, rather than a radical or a theorist, which led people to dismiss his works, including Civil Disobedience, one of his most influential writings. Some poets and writers did see the potential of his ideology, but the same cannot be said for the majority of people. Authors and poets including Leo Tolstoy, Willa Cather, and William Butler Yeats have sung their praises and believed that the country knows not yet, or in the least part, how great a son it has lost, when Thoreau had passed away. Though he didn't have much impact in his lifetime, he did make a lasting impact to the world that we live in today. Through his writings and actions, Thoreau inspired innumerable reformers and individuals that include revolutionists Mahatma Gandhi,
you wouldn't go in your customary Indian dress in any of that bit,
and Martin Luther King Jr.
I have a dream.
They have taken up causes that he so emphatically believed in. There are also groups that are now founded in honor to Thoreau. This includes the Thoreau Society and the Walden Woods Project at Thoreau Institute in Lincoln, Massachusetts. Thoreau made minimal impact during his lifetime, but the world today has been shaped by his ever-so-lasting beliefs. Without Thoreau, the world would be much different than it is today.
Most of Thoreau's work show the characteristics of a traditional idealist. Ralph Waldo Emerson found that his extreme idealism made even an ordinary friendship difficult to maintain. Emerson once said that he believed the severity of Thoreau's ideals interfered and deprived him of a healthy sufficiency of human society. Like other transcendentalists, Thoreau also believed that nature served as a vehicle for human insight. The main problem addressed in his early essays about nature was the awakening of human beings, their responsibility and power in nature. He believed that the way we interpret nature allows us to bear on how people live or are destined to live.
One of the most significant factors that made the American dream so unique was the freedom of speech. Henry David Thoreau, though, questioned that factor. Civil Disobedience, an analytical writing of why men obey government laws even when they believe it to be unjust, questioned the idea of an American dream by stating that the people of America had no freedom of speech in certain circumstances, even if they knew it was not right. I went to the woods because I wished to live deliberately, to front only the essential facts of life, and see if I could not learn what it had to teach, and not, when I came to die, discover that I had not lived. Henry David Thoreau was a man of wisdom, a wisdom, though, that could not be realized until many years after his death. He would have never imagined what happened on later, how much he actually impacted the American society in the end of the day. But did it really matter? He eventually made a difference, one that many learn upon today. Civil Disobedience had become a classical text in American thought, and so has his legend.